Hey, what's going on, Brody?
Nothing much. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good.
So, what do you think about all these states legalizing lately?
It really depends. There's benefits and there's downsides of it. So there's good things and bad things on both sides.
What side do you think you're leaning on?
I'm leaning for that it's bad and that it's not good because there's a couple big things. Property crimes are going up because people can go steal, and even you can take a car out of radio, take it to a pawn shop, get $25 for that, and they can go and get some weed for that.
Yeah,
So people are getting stole from more. There's pregnant moms, they're using it more since it's legal, which is terrible for the babies.
yeah, no kidding. Malformation and just a laundry list of different things can go wrong if you're doing that. I'm honestly surprised that there's even a small grouping of people that would even think about that, let alone it's on the rise and that a higher and higher percentage of it are smoking weed while they're pregnant. I just think that's awful.
Yeah, with the legalization of it, it went up almost 25% of people using marijuana within using it, and it's only been legalized for, I want to say it's about 6, 7 years now.
That's what I don't think you're too far off on your data. At least that's what the article I was watching, or sorry, not article, my bad. That's what a couple of the different things I was watching. Like I've seen a couple news articles talking about it, and there's just an overall leaning that is just not the best idea. Even teens especially are getting a hold of it because it's so much easier to get it now. You just have to have an older brother that can go down to the pot shop and get you a dime bag. It's awful. And the addiction rate when you're young is so high. It's so much easier to get addicted to pot when you're developing because your brain just easily makes a correlation that, oh yeah, that's good, that's just how we are now, and then you grow such a dependence to it. It's very difficult to get through.
So is it just weed that's addictive, or is that also why they raised the age of nicotine to 21?
I think they're just trying to keep our generation from being addicted, and I'm, to be honest with it, I support it absolutely. Even from experience with nicotine like that, I started smoking cigarettes when I was in 8th grade, and I started vaping to stop it, and then now I'm trying to stop vaping, and it's just about one of the hardest things that I've done. I've gone down in nicotine percentage, but it's still just an ongoing battle, and I'm on the up and up for it, and I think I'm winning it. But gee whiz, is it some tough stuff to break.
Yeah, another downside for legalizing it, actually, if more drugs are getting legalized, then the organized crime, the crime rates will go down for it. With marijuana being legalized in Colorado, it went down 84% for arrests because of weed.
Yeah,
And the organized crime is losing millions, almost billions of dollars from it with not catching people because what can you do if people have weed on them now? It's legal and it's okay.
yeah, and I think you worded it a little wrong. I don't want it to come across weird, but when you first started, I think you might have accidentally said why it's good. Why it's bad. It's very good that that's happening, that organized crime's losing millions of dollars, so we don't have to worry about that. Because millions of dollars is like thousands of members that we don't have to worry about rummaging around our area and selling pot to our kids and stuff, or even worse, crack and coke. But in saying that, with them legalizing weed, a lot of deaths have gone down as well with other drug-related instances, like opiates. They had a decrease of 7% in the in just about the first year of legalizing it, and it's just been a steady decline since. People aren't popping pills like they were if they can just go smoke weed, which is awesome. That's great, to be honest. Like, very, very good for them. But that's why it should just be legalized to a medical standpoint. I don't think we need everyone to be able to go home and smoke weed and stink up the whole neighborhood. They should just be able to go home and drink their poison and be fine with it. The instances of people driving while under the influence, there has been a slight decrease, but it's possibly just because cops can't figure it out. They can't tell if people are driving while under the influence of pot. And if they start driving under the influence of pot and get comfortable with that, start mixing it with alcohol, it's the worst, just about the worst thing you can possibly do, other than like being on heroin behind the wheel or something like that. The people just can't be doing that. We're not, it's unsafe and it's putting lives in danger, and the percent's going up. There's so many more people that have been driving while under the influence of both alcohol and marijuana.
Another thing that they thought with legalizing it, they thought that crime rates would go down, but they actually have saw a very minimal change with it.
And sorry to interrupt. I think that's just because people are bad, and there's nothing we can really do about it. Unless everyone's making a lot more money, people are just going to steal so they can have more money, and that's just kind of the bottom line. There's not really much we can do about it. I think one of the scariest things is that all these bags look absolutely delicious. If you ever Google what these edible brands are making and how their packaging looks, the kids can just open that right up and get into it. And stoned 5-year-olds are terrible. The developmental absolute wall that could put in front of that kid is astronomical, and just it's horrifying. And especially since they don't know what's going on. I couldn't imagine Mike being a little kid and accidentally eating a pot brownie and absolutely tripping balls or just staring at the sun. Like, there's so many different things that could go wrong, and there's so many instances of kids getting a hold of pot brownies or getting a hold of gummy bears and just stuff like that. And especially going back on the pregnant moms, the increase is just it's the numbers are just so prominent there, and it's not crazy at all. It's just it got legal, now moms smoke weed when they're pregnant. It's disgusting. It's sad.
Another thing, yeah, they have gummies, they have brownies, pretty much anything they can make now. They can lace it with weed, and that's mostly aiming for children. And that's same with nicotine. The reason why I had to raise the ages for it, because they started making flavored vapes, and that you cannot tell anybody those are not aimed directly for kids who can't do a menthol flavor or a tobacco flavor. So they need something sweet, so they think, oh, this isn't bad. If it's fruit flavor, that means it's for us.
Yeah, why don't we add an incredibly addictive chemical to something that tastes like sugar? Isn't that a great idea? Adding two completely different, but absolutely not so different when it comes to addiction level, with sugar and nicotine, and they're marketing it towards all these young adults, and all young adults really are teenagers. It's not the 21, 22, 23 crowd. It ends up just being marketed to the 15, 16, 17, 18 crowd who can't even buy it, so they just go ask their brother to get them some, or they go ask their sister or some crap, or their coworker, however it be. And it's just so easy to get it nowadays, and it's just scary how addicted these kids are to it. If you take a vape from a kid, or these kids get found with theirs by their mom, and you see the scream crying. You can Google these videos of kids getting caught with their vapes or getting caught with their dab pens, and they're just scream crying. I want it back! I want it back! I don't care that I'm in trouble. I want it back! It's scary. It's sad. Nicotine's just, back onto that, it's just such an addictive chemical. There's been over 60 kids that died, and over 2,000 of them hospitalized due to vaping-related vaping-related causes. And that could be e-cigarette or even these dab pens. I've read and heard several stories of kids and their lungs just absolutely collapsing or getting popcorn lung from all these vapes, and their lungs are absolutely screwed for the rest of their lives. Someone who wasn't super close to me, but close to one of my friends, he had to go to the hospital due to a bunk cart, is what he called it, which just meant he had a dab cartridge that just collapsed his lung due to the vitamin E acetate in there, and it just destroyed him. And now he'll never be the same again. And he wasn't even that tough of a kid to start with. He was asthmatic as is, and it just broke his lung, literally.
And you can even tell this is being aimed for kids, but there is people trying to prevent it, because you can go on Snapchat and they will give you ads with what's that one ad called?
Isn't it The Truth?
It's something they talk about, and they'll have different ads talking about there's no vaping team, and how if one person's vaping, it affects other people, because you can get other people addicted, because all they have to say is, oh, you should try it just once. It won't do anything to you. And you hit that once, you're like, oh, this tastes good because it's fruit flavored, because it's for kids. It's not. They're aiming for younger ages, and you get addicted after 1, 2, 3 hits, and pretty soon.
Yeah, then there's the tingles, and then you're hooked for the rest of your life, and that's what they want to have happen.
And the thing with you being hooked for the rest of your life, you don't even know the effects yet because they've been around for a little bit, but they weren't predominant.
Mm-mm.
And now that they're coming out, our generation, since they were aiming those fruit flavors for kids with their fruit flavored pods and the fruit flavored disposables, they're weird. Our generation is the lab rats, and you'll see when people in your class are 60, 70, you're going to see they're going to have probably worse lungs than people who are smoking cigarettes since they were your age. Because if you look at it, I think one pod is equal to...
It's an entire pack of cigarettes. Depending, and that's just for like a jewel pod, which is the smallest.
Is that a whole pod though?
When it comes to Alto, which is the most prominent nicotine pod system that people buy nowadays, they have over 2 jewel pods worth. So each pod is worth 2 packs of cigarettes.
That's a lot.
For each Alto pod, yeah, it's absolutely insane. And that's just due to the salt nicotine that's in these vapes. They essentially took the nicotine plant, scraped it of its most nicotine rich material, which are called nicotine salts, and they added it to the vape juice to make you not only get buzzed faster, but get buzzed harder, so you want it more and more. They made them so much more addictive than cigarettes, and so much tastier that it's almost impossible to stop when you start. And it's direct targeting to get people's vaping.
And another thing with that, with cigarette, you light it up and you can see as you're going down, you know how much you're smoking. But with a pod, you do not know how much you're hitting because it's a liquid. You can see the liquid go down, but you do not know.
Seriously, as well as our lungs, I mean, yeah, over the years, smoke inhalation is bad, but our lungs have adapted to heal from it. This vapor is just completely different, and we can't recover from it the same. It's foreign, it's alien to our lungs. We don't even know what effects it's going to have because we aren't made to have that happen. Smoke is natural, but vapor is not. This electronic heating and this fake smoke that it's producing is, we don't know what catastrophic failure it could have been for our lung health, and we don't know how bad we don't know how bad some of these people are gonna be.
And one of those things you have to think about with the smoke from a cigarette or even weed, that is smoke in your lungs. Vapor, that is heating up water. So that is water inside your lungs, which is drowning your lungs, filling them up with water, and that's why people will hit those things, and all of a sudden, you're not running those 5Ks anymore because you can't even go up the stairs without getting winded.
You're essentially getting mini pneumonia, which is water on the lungs.
And you were doing that every day of the week, probably at least a couple hours a day hitting that. And that adds up very fast, but we don't know what happens yet.
And going back to weed, whether it's legal or not, people are still going to make these fake cartridges, and they'll just sell them for cheaper and cheaper. And those fake cartridges are made of who knows what. And people are just dying. And the FDA literally had to give out a list on things that you can add to vape cartridges that won't hurt people, so they don't have so many hospitalizations. And it did go down. They did read into it. But it's still, it's so bad that was even a problem. And it's not like making it a federal level is okay. They'll just have lobbyists make it so they can add more and more pesticides and more fillers. So then they might be safe now, but 10 years down the line, they'll just be as bad as street carts again.
And I just remember the name of the ad. It's called The Real Cost, and they will talk about it. You are getting metal in your lungs. So you get water in your lungs, metal in your lungs, and you're supposed to be getting air. And the molecules are not the same.
No.
And you're killing yourself. And first couple hits, you don't realize that. Once you've been doing it for a while, you could talk to people. You could probably talk to your grandma about it who smokes cigarettes, and they'll tell. You can hear them. They're on their oxygen machines, and they have that raspy voice, and they say they wish they would have quit sooner.
With their
That's-
nose full of plastic tubes.
And why do you think people they do it every New Year's? I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to stop vaping. I'm gonna stop drinking. And it's addictive, so they can't.
And every single year, Marlboro, Bud, all of these companies just keep making more and more money, and the government just keeps collecting all these taxes, and that's why they're fine with it, because they make so much money from taxes on alcohol and tobacco that they're just like, oh, that's okay, that can be legal. We make good money.
And
That's the school money.
And that's another thing with the government. A lot of these government officials, they're not going to be smoking cigarettes. They're not going to be vaping. They're not going to be doing weed. So they're, oh yeah, raise the age for that. Don't legalize it. But with alcohol, they want to go and have a couple wines. They're like, oh, don't change the age because we like that.
Yeah, don't make that illegal. Then everyone will be super pissed off. We saw what happened with prohibition. Even if they legalize everything and decide, oh, that was a bad idea, and take it away, it'll just be prohibition part 2. It'll just be bootleggers and hillbillies growing fields and fields of dope and selling it for out of drugstores again.
And that's what was happening in California with all that land down there. They were literally going into the forest and finding the weed plants being grown like en masse, like hundreds of thousands of square feet just filled with marijuana plants.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to chop those all down and burn them all up. And that is one benefit. If they do legalize weed and other drugs, yes, it is not good, and yes, it could raise the crime rates, but another benefit is that it would lower cartels, because if you're able to go to a dispensary and you can get your weed from there, that means you're not buying through plugs and cartels and dealers, which will lower the crime rate, because we've saw what it's like in Mexico with the cartels, and they'll kill people over $20 if they don't get that money. They'll kill your family.
Seriously.
And they'll do all that stuff, but a dispensary's not going to do that.
No.
So it's at least safer, and since they have to have they have to have a license to sell, so the government can be watching them, and the FDA,
Yeah. Federal Drug Administration, yeah.
the FDA, they could be watching it to make sure they're not tossing anything else in there to make it more addictive or worse. Another thing is even vaping at school. We have to put vape detectors in the bathrooms because kids are so addicted they can't go through a school day without hitting their vape in the bathrooms, and they know they have vape detectors in there, and that's how addicted they are. They don't care that they're going to have to pay a fine or that they get suspended for a couple days because they want that nicotine and they want it now. And people, you'll see them, groups of people just go into the bathroom, and then they'll come out, and then they have to go to the office, they get searched, and that's just wasting time for the teachers and the staff, because now they have to watch the bathrooms more, because people can't even go to the bathroom now without having to worry about having to go to the office because some stupid kid in there who has an addiction wants to send off the vape detectors.
Mm-hmm. And they have to fit all these vape detectors in these bathrooms now, which they have to cost at least $100 minimum per unit, and they have to do it in each stall. There's several vape detectors in each bathroom. There's at least 3 that I remember seeing when I went there, and that has to cost a computer a piece. I bet it's a computer per boys' room, a computer per girls' room. That's so much money that could be spent somewhere else. There's kids that can't eat lunch every day, man. It's such an issue that I know they have to crack down on it, but like, it's sad that that's what they have to spend so many resources on, and they have